Dan Illman, Mike Beer for Kentucky Derby Prep Recap, taking a look back at the San Felipe Stakes at Santa Anita, going a mile and a 16th. A race won by Practical Move and a race won in very fast time. He earned a 100 Buyers speed figure for this performance, his seasonal debut. We break from the gate. Practical Move is the number 3, and he is a horse with wonderful tactical speed, and he's a very professional horse that doesn't mind being down inside behind horses, Mike.
Yeah, this is his second win in a row, Dan, with a trip just like this one. I think you're right, though, to point out his tactical speed, Dan. He's able to get himself into a perfect spot here around the first turn. And from here on out, though, I mean, I realize that, you know, when all is said and done, you're just going to watch this replay back and go, wow, did everything just work out perfectly for this horse? But, man, look at him right now under a huge hold, tracking this pace. And he looks like this all the way up the backstretch.
Looks very, very comfortable. Hijazi and Go Rocket Ride stepping up off maiden wins, very highly regarded by their connections, carving out the pace. Distance was a big question mark for both. I think Go Rocket Ride showed plenty to recommend him for a race like the Santa Anita Derby, while Hijazi might need a cutback.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Hijazi. Go Rocket Ride runs fine in here. He took a lot of money in this race. He's up close the entire way. He's only second best. The winner is just cruising in behind the lead right now, Dan. And I think his rider just had to know he was going to get through on the rail. You can see Hijazi on the lead with a really tight left rein, like he's trying to get out. They could not keep him on the rail. It opens right up for the winner here. He comes on through, but watch the way he finishes this race off, Dan. He really gives these horses no chance to catch him, and then he continues on past the wire.
While Practical Move came through on the inside, Skinner, the number 10, showed no early speed whatsoever, made a big move from the back of the pack into contention on the turn, seemed to flatten out a little bit inside the 3/16ths, and then stays on for third, passing a tired Hijazi. He ran well, but not as well as the winner, Practical Move, who paid a very generous 4-1 in this race, considering his the quality he showed last year at 2 and his win in the Los Alamitos Futurity.
Yeah, that's true, Dan. He came into this race. He was a grade 2 winner already. The horses, the two favorites who ran second and third to him, were both coming into this race off of maiden wins. But they went for those horses. They didn't go for Practical Move. And he made them pay, Dan. He looked like an odds-on favorite when this race was over.
The second and third place finishers likely to go to the Santa Anita Derby. We're still waiting to see what we'll do with Tim Yakteen will do with Practical Move. And it's kind of interesting that Yakteen has taken over so many of the Baffer-trained horses. This is a Yakteen original, Practical Move, and he might be the best of the group. Getting back to Go Rocket Ride, only a second lifetime start, stretching out in distance, stepping up in class. He acquitted himself quite well. He's got good speed, and he's still learning the game.
Yeah, I think all those things are true. He ran fine in here. It felt like, I don't know if you agree with this or not, Dan, it felt like in the first part of this race, Pratt could have made the lead with this horse if he wanted to, but they didn't really seem like they wanted to put him on the lead this time. They elected to track off of Hijazi up on the pace. And all in all, I don't think he could complain about the trip that he got. He couldn't quite kick on there at the top of the stretch. Of course, Hijazi did come out and sort of float him at the top of the stretch, so they had to go back inside. I don't think it was going to matter, Dan. He was not going to beat Practical Move in this race, but I thought he did pretty well to be clearly second best.
And you can't really question tactical speed and how important it is in racing in North America, especially on the dirt. Practical Move is a horse that can be put anywhere his jockey wants. On the other hand, Skinner is a horse that just doesn't seem to have any speed whatsoever. And he fell far behind. He did make that sharp move on the turn. He is a pretty talented horse, but with his running style, you have to start to wonder, is he the kind of horse that just needs the setup from a trip and pace standpoint every time?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he's going to wind up starting to be compromised. I don't know that I necessarily felt that way about his 3-year-old debut, Dan. Last month in that maiden race, I mean, obviously they got him back into the right kind of a spot. I didn't really feel like he didn't have any speed in that race, though. They rated him, but it's not like he was totally outrun there. I thought, listen, maybe he did just get outrun by this pace. I just felt like Espinoza was pretty conservative with this horse early in the race. He wound up making a run around the final turn. I know he was only third in here, and there was never a real point where it looked like he was going to win. I thought he ran fine.
Do you think that Hijazi was found out at this longer distance? He has run some very fast sprints. He's obviously a quick horse out of the gate. He made the lead here. He took some pressure. He tired. Perhaps it's too early to give up on him as a 2-turn horse, but I kind of like him sprinting.
Yeah, I wonder the same thing about him. I'm more concerned just about the way that Smith sort of had his hands full with this horse. With that really tight left rein there, it felt like this horse was trying to get out almost the entire trip in here, and he finally did start getting out as his field came into the stretch. He didn't totally quit in the late stages of this race, Dan, but he was just no match for the 1, 2, 3 finishers, and I didn't like the way he was trying to get out for most of this race.
Fort Bragg, the fifth-place finisher, ran just fine. He was beaten by Practical Move in the Los Alamitos Futurity in his final start at 2, and he was just sort of hung out 3-4 wide all the way around the track here. He can do better next time, maybe at a price.
Yeah, maybe he can. I thought he had some excuses for his 2-year-old races, even though he, finished first in a couple of those. It felt like the kind of horse, though, who had more in the tank, and maybe once he put everything together, he could take a pretty big step forward. It didn't really happen here. He took a 3-wide trip up with the leaders, couldn't really reach contention around the final turn, finished an even fourth. I was actually a little disappointed here. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great.
Let's take a closer look at our winner, Practical Move, who has now won 3 of 6 lifetime starts, 2 graded stakes races, 3rd in the Bob Hope, 3 starts back sprinting, but he just seems to have found his niche going these middle distances, and I don't really see any reason why he won't go a little bit farther, Mike. I know Practical Joke is sort of a sire of maybe sprinters and sort of middle distance horses, but the dam was fairly long-winded. I think she was a New York bred, multiple stakes placed a couple of times on the turf. This is a quality, versatile family.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. The Practical Jokes, I guess, maybe this horse, they'll ultimately start getting found out as the distances get longer. But as you've already pointed out, there's distance all over this female family. First of all, he just kind of looks like the kind of horse who really wants to go a distance of ground. This is also, Dan, by the way, that's the female family of Commissioner Vino Rosso. So there's a lot of distance and a lot of quality on the bottom of this pedigree. And this horse just looks good.
$90,000 buyback as a yearling. He sold for $230,000 to his current connections as an April 2-year-old. Let's take a look at the prices for the San Felipe. Practical Move paid $10.40 with a really good-looking effort with a very good trip, but his professionalism should serve him well as the distances get longer and as the fields get bigger. His ability to sit behind horses and squeeze through tight holes. Go Rocket Ride, a lot of upside potential, finish second. Hopefully Skinner maybe can get into the race a little bit earlier in a spot like the Santa Anita Derby. I still think there's some ability here for this John Sheriff's trainee. 3-8-10 in the San Felipe. Practical Move for Yachtine. It'll be interesting to see if he stays at Santa Anita for the Santa Anita Derby facing stablemate Arabian Night or if he goes out of town.